21F. Ending friendship, I engaged in a fight by telling him 22MY. Now what? I don't want to be insensitive, but I haven't changed my mind. I am in the process of terminating a friendship. To me, this is long overdue, and I should have acknowledged to myself that I did not wish to maintain contact, despite the positives. If the enjoyable moments only exist because there is no conflict, and when disagreements arise, they cannot be addressed appropriately and maturely, then I do not consider it a good relationship. Perhaps I am overreacting by ending it so abruptly, but the current circumstances only reinforce my desire to distance myself from him. Initially, I attempted to conclude things in a nice manner by simply stating, "Hey, it was wonderful and all, but I believe it would be best for us to part ways, wishing you a great life," etc. He responded by expressing his bewilderment over my decision, questioning why I would throw everything away and mentioning how it is my loss. So, like a fool, I elaborated on my reasons. I regret that decision tremendously. I essentially opened the door to conflict instead of just walking away. I tried to remain polite. I was not overly emotional, but it was not as though I was being kind by explaining how he hurt me. He did hurt me in certain ways, and I provided my reasons. Now I feel as though I owe an explanation for feelings that were once dismissed, and that will likely be dismissed again if I continue. Additionally, I did not communicate with him in the same manner as I am conveying this. I adopted a more explanatory approach and aimed to be somewhat neutral. I simply wanted to share how I felt. Overall, still a poor choice, but here I am. Some context that may be helpful is that he has shown romantic interest in me previously, but I have consistently rejected him. I cannot recall how well I handled it when I was younger, around 15 years old the first time, but essentially, I have never had romantic feelings for him since then. I have declined his advances multiple times. The second refusal led to a confrontation over how I was, leading him on. Unfortunately, he continues to believe I misled him and is currently upset over my lack of feelings. It seems he refuses to accept that I never felt that way. I treated him just like all of my other friends and family members, and when necessary, I rejected his direct overtures. I was unaware of how to handle subtleties at that age, so if that was a factor, I would have admittedly overlooked it. I thought my initial rejection was sufficient, but I still attempted to clarify that he was merely a friend to me. I never intentionally conveyed anything that suggested, "I want more." He is entitled to his perspective, I understand, but he insists that I implied other things, as if implications are definitive, while I genuinely shared the same topics with him that I discussed with all my friends. It does not matter to him that I did not mean it or desire a romantic connection. I implied it, so I contradicted myself in his eyes. It seems he believes it is my fault for him being unable to accept that I was only interested in friendship. He told me he was fine with being friends. The only leading I could have done was by remaining friends with him at all. I should have ended the friendship the moment I realized he had ulterior motives, even if only briefly. I should have recognized that anything I did could be perceived differently through his viewpoint. Conflicts are an issue in this friendship. I do not mean they occur frequently, but perhaps not infrequently enough. Communication is a challenge. He has previously informed me that I have caused him pain, but he let it pass. He never specified what I did, so I genuinely did not know what I should have changed. I am not adept at handling conflict either, but if it is safe to do so, I am perfectly comfortable telling someone when their behavior has hurt me. I initially believed I was conflict avoidant, but now I am starting to question if I was merely avoiding conflict with him. I had issues with his defensiveness. Nearly every time I indicated I was offended by something, it was questioned. Why was I offended by such a minor issue? I should know him better than to think he meant anything negative. Or even worse, it was turned around on me. I would prefer a quick, "Sorry, my mistake," but that rarely happens. It becomes this convoluted process where I have to reassure him that I am not angry, but please refrain from saying that again. I once expressed discomfort over something he did, and he later confronted me, claiming he felt hurt by my suggestion that he was a bad person. I swear I was not rude. I simply asked why he was behaving that way, expressed that it made me uncomfortable, and said it was all fine, just please do not do it again. I did challenge him on this because I do not find it acceptable for him to blame me for his offense when I felt uncomfortable by something he admitted to intentionally doing. He did apologize, but I am not certain. I thought he seemed sincere, although I found certain things odd, but whatever. Unfortunately, some of his comments now lead me to believe he genuinely does not see belittling my feelings about small matters as problematic. For the record, he was not supposed to know, which is why I informed him I was upset. I'm not upset with his actions, but with how the situation was managed, and I made that clear. He wishes to focus on how I could be offended by these trivial behaviors. I am noticing concerning and manipulative behaviors in concluding this friendship that I was previously unaware of. In hindsight, they were present, but we were young and uninformed. For instance, he has repeatedly stated that I should know him better. Whenever I mention, he said something disrespectful. He later returns after I say I was uncomfortable with something and expresses anger towards me for implying he is a bad person. It is my loss for desiring to end our friendship. I carry the baggage of childhood trauma, and he claims I am perpetuating harm by ending this friendship and leaving him behind. In the past, he was upset that I shared personal matters with others rather than only with him. He is absolutely insistent that we can still be friends after I have multiple times stated that no, I will not maintain any contact with him. Furthermore, he may not be being manipulative, but after my initial rejection and the second time he inquired whether I was interested in him, he claimed he was only interested in being friends with me because he envisioned a romantic future with me. Once again, he stated he was fine with just being friends afterward, but I should have recognized at that moment that it was time to sever ties. He is posing numerous questions that I believe are unwise to answer. The only response is rude. One of these typical questions is, "Why don't you like me?" He explicitly stated he would not accept, "I just don't have feelings for you," as an answer. Well, let me tell you, he will not appreciate my answer. Because see above, many of his behaviors remind me of traits in someone who was emotionally abusive during my childhood. Even if I attempt to gather evidence, I genuinely cannot trust my own memory. I do not mean to suggest I am being gaslit, but even though I feel as though I recall events one way, that does not guarantee they actually happened. I have already stated things I believed occurred that may not have. In any case, questions like that are a direct invitation for me to be candid, and it is incredibly tempting to express all the things I find wrong. However, I really do not want to provoke further conflict. It appears so trivial and immature to engage in a back and forth of, "You are terrible because insert reason here," and then he counters with, "Well, you are terrible because more reasons here." Unproductive communication, in my view. And truly, do I owe him that kind of response? It is the end of a friendship. Does it require that level of detail? I was foolish and had a desire to be heard. Clearly, he is not the kind of person I should have opened up to. Of course, I can, unfortunately, only present my side of the story, but every other person I have sought advice from has asked, "Why on earth are you still communicating with him?" I do not know. Perhaps it is denial. Maybe I was too eager to have a friend that I overlooked the negatives. I'm afraid that I may be just as flawed and hypocritical. If I have exhibited such behavior in the past, I would readily apologize and sincerely support the person in leaving me behind. This does not seem worthwhile, but it feels wrong to abandon it. I am uncertain how to proceed. I want to be assertive, kind, and angry simultaneously, but I do not wish to become the person I staunchly oppose. By the way, please let me know if I am being unreasonable. It will not alter my decision to end this friendship. If I am, it may ultimately be better for him, but I honestly do not know how justified my responses are. Summary: I made the error of being too honest about my reasons for ending a friendship with someone who never wanted to let me go, cannot manage negativity, and with whom both of us seem to harbor built-up resentment. Story 2. My partner came out to me as trans femme, and I don't understand why I'm so upset and scared. How do I clarify my feelings and figure out what to do next in the relationship? My 23-year-old cisgender female partner, a 22-year-old trans-feminine individual who uses she/they pronouns, recently expressed her desire to start using she/her pronouns and to fully transition to living as a woman. My partner and I have been together for over 2 years, and she has identified as non-binary for as long as I have known her. using he/they pronouns when we met, then they/them while we were dating, and experimenting with they/she for a short period before returning to they/them when she began hormone replacement therapy. She has gradually explored femininity and started hormone replacement therapy a year ago, which has significantly increased her happiness and confidence. Much of what I am feeling now resembles the uncertainty I experienced when my partner first started hormone replacement therapy. I was quite concerned that our dynamic might shift and that my attraction could change or vanish, but thankfully, things in the bedroom remained relatively consistent, and I adapted. More on that later. When she first came out as non-binary, back when we were simply friends, I was the person who helped her discover her fashion sense, shaped her eyebrows, styled her hair, and taught her how to apply makeup. However, for some reason, being in a relationship with her now that she has come out as trans-feminine feels like the ground has been swept out from beneath me. Most of the challenges we've encountered in the past have been issues we were able to address and adapt to, and I am incredibly grateful for how effectively we communicate and how compatible we are. However, this feels overwhelming because I am unable to articulate what I am feeling or why I am so afraid. I have close friendships with many transgender and queer individuals, and I have explored my own gender and sexuality in the past. Nonetheless, the changes in my partner feel so profoundly different and frightening compared to when my best friend came out as a trans man. I genuinely love my partner as she is now, and I fear that what I appreciate about her may fade away over time with further hormone replacement therapy and a complete social transition. I believe a great deal of the struggles I am facing revolve around my own sexuality and uncertainty regarding it. To summarize, I have identified as queer bisexual for a considerable period, but I have had difficulties defining my attraction and feeling secure in my identity. Due to past trauma, I spent a significant amount of time being hypersexual while never genuinely experiencing attraction, romantic or otherwise, toward anyone of any gender. There were many crisis periods in my life where I questioned whether I was asexual or aromantic or simply incapable of love. Nevertheless, I generally found myself attracted to masculine individuals, primarily dating men, with the occasional non-binary person, masculine lesbian, or transgender man included. However, all of my long-term relationships prior to this one have been with straight cisgender men, and I sometimes wonder if I am simply a haspian. Could I be a straight woman who is simply indecisive and not attuned to her emotions? This thought has been challenging to grapple with because nearly all my friends identify as queer, and I have just sort of tucked that concern away to address later. The main realization that has helped me reconcile my own identity and feel secure in my sexuality is the understanding that love is not an overwhelming emotion as portrayed in movies. It is more akin to a choice and a commitment you make every day. I believe one reason my partner and I relate so well is that we were best friends for a year before entering a romantic relationship, allowing us to establish a strong connection prior to that progression. Nevertheless, even during our first intimate encounter, I experienced a crisis and questioned whether I had made a dreadful mistake because all my attraction toward them seemed to vanish overnight. This is something I have discussed with a therapist who attributed it to anxiety and attachment issues. However, I truly do not know if that is the complete explanation. I also noticed that when I was concerned about no longer being attracted to my partner, my libido and attraction issues nearly entirely resolved after I took the risk of stopping my medication for a few weeks. Yes, I understand that abruptly discontinuing psychiatric medication can be dangerous. Please do not follow my example. I apologize for focusing so much on myself, but I feel that this context and the issues are intertwined. Additionally, I have never truly envisioned myself being in a long-term relationship with a woman. Before this, we had been discussing the possibility of getting engaged, building a life together, and having children. I realize this may sound quite silly and very heteronormative, but I prefer being the feminine partner with my partner embracing a masculine role. I enjoy being the little spoon with someone who is larger, stronger, and more level-headed, taking on a more dominant role in the relationship. It is a nuanced feeling that is difficult for me to articulate without sounding trivial. I cannot simply break up with someone because I want to be the sole person wearing a white dress at my wedding. While exploring trans-focused communities online, I came across many individuals who successfully adapted to being with someone they initially did not foresee. But I have also encountered others who insist that one cannot simply change their sexuality based on desire, even if they genuinely want to. A major aspect of my fear regarding my partner's transition is how it may impact our dynamic and our sexual relationship. I have always adopted a more submissive role in that regard and do not enjoy taking on a dominant position. This has been a continuous issue since my partner has always identified as a bottom. Earlier in our relationship, our sexual incompatibility nearly led to its end. Our solution has typically involved me taking on the dominant role while pretending to enjoy it so that my partner can find satisfaction. Occasionally, I will request her to take her turn, and she agrees, but only after I have nearly begged. However, my partner is less inclined to reciprocate for me, and I do not think it is selfish to feel less enjoyment or to be anxious about not being good at dominating. Nonetheless, it sometimes troubles me that she is so resistant to making small compromises to balance our relationship. This has improved significantly over time, as my partner has made adjustments since I expressed that an equitable exchange of effort is vital for my happiness, and I am very grateful for that. Still, it is not yet truly balanced. There are also specific kinks she has developed a strong interest in since her transition that I have no desire to participate in, but I try my best to pretend in order to provide her with what she wants. Fortunately, I have grown more comfortable with taking on the dominant role and occasionally enjoy it, but I am concerned this may not be sustainable over the long term, and that these challenges might be intensified by her transition and changes in her personality. I do not want resentment to build. How can I find a long-term solution that works for both of us? Some friends have suggested that we consider polyamory to address this issue, but I am uncertain about my comfort level with that idea. I hope someone can provide guidance that helps clarify my thoughts. I feel like I am being a terrible transphobe for feeling grief and not wanting her to change, and I have struggled to eat or sleep this week due to the anxiety I am experiencing. It became so overwhelming that I took a couple of days off work to lie in bed. Why can I not support her in the same way I have supported countless other transgender friends? She has been incredible at discussing my feelings with me and has been very supportive in helping me through my anxieties. Last night, she stayed on the phone with me until 6 a.m. while I was in a panic, but I feel unable to express everything I am feeling to her because I cannot even find the words to articulate this confusion. She is the love of my life, and I genuinely want a future with her, yet I am terrified that I have wasted 2 years with someone who may not ultimately be compatible with me. I do not want to lose my best friend, but I also do not want to impede her journey toward what she needs. How can I reconcile these emotions and devise a plan from here? Story 3. Update after 7 years. My then 29F marriage to then 29M is getting annulled in a few days, not sure what to do or think. Hello everyone. This is a 7-year overdue update, but I wanted to share how things turned out after all these years. Approximately 7 years ago, I posted about my marriage being annulled. https www.reddit.com r relationship advice comments 8dxbne my marriage is getting annulled in a few days not. That post is probably no longer available, so here's a brief summary of the main issues. 1. Children. I made it clear before marriage that I never wanted children, ever. My ex agreed, but once we married, he pressured me incessantly every single day. He would place a stuffed toy under my shirt and say it would be nice to be pregnant, or that it would be adorable to have a little child clinging to my legs, etc. He also proposed getting a dog, which he later admitted was to encourage my maternal instincts, and then threatened to return her when I didn't change my mind. 2 other women at a work event, a woman leaned on him, insisted on having dinner at our table, and later invited him to join her in her room's jacuzzi right in front of me. He asserted that she was crazy and that he didn't know her, later modifying his statement to say he barely knew her. However, I checked his messages and discovered they had been having breakfasts and coffee together for quite a while. There were more incidents of this nature, including him gaming just to meet a girl he had a crush on. He even asked out 2 girls he once had a crush on out of spite, I had asked him if I could meet a male friend, to which he replied no, then threw a tantrum that I had even asked. I should have known better than to ask, apparently, and refusing to cancel until I had an emotional breakdown. 3. No accountability. He had cheated on all his previous partners and labeled them as crazy. When I finally lost my temper and yelled at him, he told me I frightened him and refused to take responsibility for our issues. He continued to see the coworker who initiated our problems, insisting it was essential for networking, even though they were not in the same department. In marriage counseling, I told him I would consider having children if he developed a specific 18-year plan for their care. He declined, saying, "Just have the child, then we will handle it." The counselor supported my view, but he stormed out and never returned. For my emotional challenges, I also behaved poorly. I struggled to regulate my emotions, often screaming, crying, and even throwing books in frustration. I look back and cringe in shame and embarrassment. There were numerous other issues, but these were the most significant. I felt lost, heartbroken, and overwhelmed. Reading the comments was difficult, and I believe I eventually deleted the post to avoid confronting them. To the commenters, to the Reddit users who were kind and reasonable in their comments, thank you. Most of you advised me to leave, stating that the marriage was toxic. That was tough to hear at the time, but you were absolutely correct. To the few who were disrespectful, yes, wanting children is perfectly fine, but coercing someone who does not, and deceiving them into marriage is not. And to the individual who suggested my ex paid for everything, no, he didn't. My parents assisted me with my master's fees. We split the expenses for the house, everything. Also, to the person who implied I had bipolar disorder, diagnosing a stranger online is irresponsible. I am now a psychologist, and no, I do not have bipolar disorder. It is a challenging, lifelong condition. I truly empathize with those who do. Emotional dysregulation can occur for many other reasons. Following through with the annulment only affirmed my choice. My ex gaslit me constantly to the extent that I had to maintain a list of evidence to remind myself of the truth. He falsely accused me of stealing money from our accounts when all I did was reclaim wedding gift money from my family, which he also did. He misled a lawyer regarding my financial contributions, claiming I contributed only $60 for the house, but I possessed bank records proving otherwise. I contributed $70,000. His self-righteous lies were often so convincing that even I doubted myself at times. Referring to my evidence record sheet was incredibly helpful. Where I stand. I am now in a healthy, loving marriage with a husband who makes me feel safe and cherished in ways I never thought possible. We have been together for over 6 years, yes. We met very shortly after my annulment, and I am so glad things worked out, and each day continues to improve. He is kind, intelligent, humorous, thoughtful, and yes, handsome as well. We engage in profound discussions about philosophy, science fiction, the meaning of life, art, and much more. He is everything my ex was not, and I now realize how much joy I would have missed if I had fought for that previous marriage and stayed. Even if my ex had worked on things, he would never have been able to fulfill me the way my husband does. Therapy, both self-guided and with professionals, has facilitated my tremendous growth. I have calmed down and learned to manage my emotions. The worst thing I do now when angry is raise my voice slightly or complain. No more screaming, no more losing control, no more helpless sobbing. Absolutely no name calling. It turns out that many of my emotional challenges stemmed from feeling unheard and trapped in a toxic marriage with someone who believed he was the best thing since sliced bread. Being in a fantastic marriage with an incredible person does wonders for emotional regulation and well-being. I suppose I just really wanted to express that if you are in a negative relationship, please do not remain due to fear. Being alone can be daunting, but nothing is worse than being ensnared in misery for life. Looking back, I cannot believe I did not recognize how imperative it was to leave. People often say that Reddit users jump to break up. But now that I am in a wonderful, stable marriage, I understand. When you are with the right person, everything feels different. You look at someone trapped in a bad situation and wonder, why do people accept such treatment? Life could be so much better if they left. I then remind myself that I once accepted terrible situations myself because leaving seemed too difficult. If you are in a bad relationship, please leave. It is not worth it. Know that there is something better out there. Do not let fear prevent you from discovering it. I am proof of this, and honestly, even if I had ended up single forever, I can tell you that I would prefer that. In the few months I was single, I realized how bad things were when I would go to bed, simply relieved that there was not a new argument or betrayal to uncover. Do what is right for you, not what is easy. I appreciate you, Redditors. Thank you for helping people escape negative relationships all over the world. Story 4. I, 22M, am having trouble reading the signs from the girl, 22F, I'm talking to. Is it worth pursuing? I recently became single after a serious, long-term relationship, and as a result, I have been exploring my options and engaging with new people whom I had not previously been able to connect with. My last relationship faded gradually, marked by a slow decline in intimacy, attention, and eventually all communication due to the challenges of long-distance dynamics. All of this means that I am quite out of practice when it comes to dating, and I find myself craving the attention and intimacy that I missed with my former girlfriend. Currently, at my workplace, there is a regular customer who I have always found very attractive. After my ex and I parted ways, I asked this regular for her social media to try and connect with her. Through this, I learned that she has a substantial following online and frequently updates her profiles. On the same day I spoke with her, I sent her a message asking her out on a date for the end of the week, also providing my phone number. Although she did not respond that night, my friends pointed out that she had posted about a cute guy, asking her for her social media that day along with other posts about my messages to her. 2 days later, she replied saying that she would like to go on a date, but the day I proposed would not work for her. Instead, she suggested several alternative dates. She mentioned that she would prefer to text my phone rather than communicate via social media. Since she had not given me her number yet, I encouraged her to text me, and we could finalize the details from there. After waiting 3 days without a response, I sent her a third message suggesting a venue for when we met the following day. A few hours later, she replied with a text confirming that she was interested in my suggestion. While waiting for her response, I noticed her updating her social media and going live, even posting videos for her followers with messages like, "Wish me luck. I'm going to give the person implied to be me a chance. I hope he's not weird." Finally, when she texted my phone, I tried to initiate a casual conversation, which turned out to be very dull and nearly non-existent. I asked how she had been, and the next day received a reply saying, "Working a lot, how about you?" I replied right away since this was the day I had mentioned going out with her in my message, and we still hadn't fully organized our plans, but she never answered. I texted her again later, offering to pick her up after work, and still got no reply. The entire day went by and nothing happened. We never met, she didn't post on social media, and all plans dissolved. She went silent. A friend later showed me a video on one of her accounts where she looked like she had been crying, with a caption that seemed to reflect an "I miss my ex" sentiment. They noted that she had been posting sad or depressed content for several days, indicating that she was likely going through a challenging period. Having experienced something similar, I empathize as I have also felt pretty down lately. Nevertheless, I have become very interested in this girl, and I still genuinely want to get to know her despite the lack of enthusiasm in our communication. My confusion arises from the fact that every time she messages me, her words suggest genuine interest, and her social media posts about me indicate she was comfortable with the attention I gave her and that she had intent to follow through with our plans. However, each direct communication I have had with her has been low energy, brief, and one-sided. My friends have advised me to leave her be, suggesting that if she wanted to contact me, she would do so, which is a valid point. However, what if she was simply having a really tough mental health day, not wanting to post online, leave her home, or respond to messages, and I happen to be a passing thought? What if the idea of going out with someone new made her uneasy, as she is still coping with her previous relationship, a feeling I can relate to? The toughest part is that among all the individuals I have started conversing with since becoming single, she is undoubtedly the one I am most interested in. There are a few people I have matched with or invited out whom I feel little connection to, and I can go hours or even a day or two before remembering to reply to their messages. I worry that to her, I occupy a similar space in her thoughts as these other individuals do for me. This leads me to wonder if it is worthwhile to keep trying to establish a connection with her, or if I should just leave her alone since she might not be sufficiently interested to warrant taking her attention away from her daily struggles. What if she is simply a poor communicator? Is there anything I could say to resonate with her and not come across as needy or overly eager? Is it even worth pursuing further? In summary, the girl I asked out initially seemed receptive, but changed her mind at the last moment and has not replied to any of my texts. She has posted on social media about facing difficulties mentally, and I am struggling to determine if it is worth my time to keep pursuing her or if she has completely disengaged from our connection.